Hello everyone, welcome to my next video going over contracting. I was requested by a fellow leader of AO to kind of review contracting, where to find things, how to use contracts in a way that you can support and benefit from your fellow alliance and corporation members, and just a quick demonstration of the AO Buyback system, which is a system that is universal no matter what part of space you're in, and it's very useful and very convenient for people who want to sell en masse items and things that they don't need to AO in general, in which the Alliance can then profit from and use for our war efforts and everything else that we do. So basically, contracting, at least in nullsec, it's huge. The vast majority of our interactions out here between corp members are through contracts. I'm sure in HighSec it's also very similar. Contracting to and from the corporation is very important. So it's good to be familiar with the mechanics of contracting and what to do and what not to do. So first off, to get to contracts, you can go to your Neocom menu, go to Finance, and you'll see a little window here that says Contracts. I moved this to the side of my bar because I use contracts a lot, so you can pin it to your bar as well. But once you open it, it's going to bring you to this page. Now, there's many different ways to do this. Well, not many, but there's a couple ways to do this. First, you can create one. You can hover over these links and create one. You can hover over this link and look at all the contracts assigned to your corporation. You can also go to the My Contracts window and look up contract lists. You can also go to the Contract Search window. Generally, the Contract Search window is kind of reserved for when you're in HighSec and JITA or in local trade hubs and you're looking for public contracts that are available. This is what you can do for specific items or ships or whatever. This is kind of where you can go to specify what you're looking for more than not. Trying to use this contract search feature when you're in a place like nullsec or somewhere with more limited contracting availability doesn't really work too well. So I would just recommend to stick to my contracts for most situations. Now, to create a contract, there's multiple settings that you should go over and utilize. You can hit this button down here. You can hit this button right here. Contracting requires certain skills. If I recall correctly, it is somewhere in the maybe social. There is a skill in which contracting, the higher the skill, the more you are able to do make contracts, assign contracts, make public contracts, etc., etc. So yeah, here you go. So in trade, here's the contracting. You can do corporation contracting. I should probably train all of these as a leader. Anyway, these are the skills that you kind of need to focus on if you want to do more contracting. It allows you to do an infinitely higher amount, up to 21 for this initial level, and then this one, each level gives you an additional up to 60 on behalf of your corporation. So I need to train that, but despite the fact that's the skills that you need, you can see I have the max level, so I can make 21 more contracts, and that means that with contracting, if you read this fine print, my personal character's ability to make contracts, I can go a total of 21 outstanding. If you are someone in leadership who has access to contracting for the corporation, you can create 500 or even more contracts for your issued to your corporation or members of your corporation. And then finally, for public contracts, things that you can make public to your alliance, to the general public, and anyone else can see these contracts available on their contract search. You can do up to 10 on behalf of the corporation. So there's different types of contracts, some public, some private, some corporation focused, some not. And you just kind of have to get the right skills and understand where you're trying to put your contracts, who you're trying to sell it to, and whether or not it's on behalf of your corporation for those of us in leadership. So let's create a contract, and we're just going to demonstrate the different types of things. So you have, when you press the button create a contract, you have a window. It says contract type. So auction is essentially what you can understand from the word auction. It's kind of like a bid war. You put up a contract on auction and a bid amount, and people will bid on it. Obviously, when you do this selection, you want to do it much lower in cost than its full price and hope that people will bid on it until it gets up to 100% of its cost in JITA or even more, depending on the lucrativeness of the item that you're auctioning. Courier is where we go for hauling contracts. You can set up a courier contract with a bunch of items that you want to be hauled from one place to another. And this is what you would normally select for our jump freight service. This is what you would select for public organizations like, Green Frog, Red Frog, Purple Frog, those kinds of hauling corporations. They have a whole breakdown of everything that you need to use when you are, trying to haul stuff to and from locations. And they have their own websites, they have all that stuff. And finally, item exchange. This is your direct trading contract. This is where you post up something to sell, and then on the acceptance of that contract, someone is paying out the amount that you set. So this probably is going to be the majority of the type of contract that you use. There's this little indication here. This is kind of specific to certain instances in which you're trying to sell fully fitted ships, right? So when at least out here in NullSec, when you have industry, if you're an industrialist and you're creating fully assembled ships with everything, all the modules on it, it's a pre-fit ship, and you want to set up multiple contracts. You click on this button and it'll restrict your contract making to only assembled ships, and it'll cause this unique instance in which every single item that you've selected, up to 20 items, up to 20 ships, will create individual contracts for those ships. If you didn't select this and then you selected a bunch of ships, it'll include all of them into one single contract. All the contents of those ships and the ships themselves will all be in one single contract. So you have to be careful when you're doing fitted and pre-fit ships. You have to make sure you select this button. Okay, so those are the contract types. The availability, obviously, you can set it to public, and depending on your skills, it'll show you down here the amount that you can set up. So for me personally, I can do up to 21. If I do private, same thing. If I do to my corporation, because it's to my corporation, I can do up to 500. If I do my alliance, it's only based on your personal skill as well. And then depending on what you have, if you are able to, if you have access to a wallet in your leadership role, you can also select this, and this, depending on your prerequisites, changes the outstanding contract. So on behalf of the corporation, I can only do up to 10 to the alliance. I can do up to 500 to the corporation, and I can only do 10 to public. So you gotta have to be careful with what type of purpose your contract is for and where it's going, essentially. All right. So I'm just going to say it's a exchange item. I'm going to do it as an assembled ship, and I'm going to say it's public for now or something. So you press next. It's going to ask you where out of what station that you're going to do this stuff. I'm not actually going to make a contract, but you can see when I click assembled ship, it's showing me essentially only ships that I have that are all assembled, right? So I could post up my Proteus. That's a fully fitted Proteus. I could post up any of these other ships here. I could select up to 21 ships. So I could select all this stuff. It'll show me 44. Okay, let me select this Algos, this one, this Atron, a Catalyst, and when you press next, maybe something is not actually assembled. Yeah, this one probably is not actually assembled. So you have to make sure that it's actually a assembled ship. So this Algos, I think I have assembled. This one, all of these I do, but if you see a number or quantity, it's likely an unassembled or packaged ship, so that may not count. But despite the fact, you need to find something that you know for sure is assembled. So in this case, I'll do this. So you press next. It'll warn you if it's an insured ship. It'll warn you, if you create the contract, whatever. You can set it to whatever cost you want, and based on the amount of ships you've selected, you can see here a separate contract will be created for each selected ship. I've selected one. So where you have 10 or 15, let's say, feroxes that you have produced as an industrialist for AO General, you can have up to 10 of these, and you'll have to set the price for each individual ship here so that it creates an individual contract per fitted ship. And then typically you'll input some sort of description. You want to be pretty clear about the description. You want it to be comprehensive, obviously concise. You don't have too much space. But one of the important things that people often forget to do is to mention that when you do these fitted ships, now at least on industrial side, they often put the rigs in the cargo. So some examples I can show you. I have a whole program where I produce ships for system defense, and you can see here I have, like, depending on the type of ship I order, depending on the type of ship that I'm posting, I'll say what it is and whether or not there's rigs in the cargo. And that way, when people purchase this, they know, oh, the rigs are in its cargo hold. Let me fit those into the ship so that it's, at its maximum performance and it's not missing any of the modules or rigs that it should be coming with. All right. And then you just keep on going. So I would, you would do this, you would insert the price, you would press next, and we'll do 100, whatever, doesn't matter, 1 million. And then it'll tell you all the breakdown of everything you selected, how much it costs, how much, what it is, etc., etc. Okay. Now, what can you do with your contracting, and how do you know how much to post? Well, you can go ahead and see. I go to my inventory, 1 second, you can see based on what you're trying to do, there's a few useful websites. The first being a very popular website that you should get very familiar with, and it is called Janus. So let me open that up for you. Here we go. Janus. So this is a website where you can essentially input the information that you're looking for. You can copy and paste whatever modules, the amount, anything that you want, anything of value. So let's say here, let me open the cargo hold to my Proteus. I can see all this, exploration loot I've been doing, and I want to know how much of value this stuff is, right? So I'm going to go ahead, let me switch back so you can see what I'm doing. So in this cargo hold right here, I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of this. I'm going to Control-C to copy, and then I'm going to go ahead to that website and paste all that information right here. It'll say, okay, artificial neural network, there's 8 of them, etc., etc. It'll kind of give you a breakdown of everything that you've listed here, and then depending on what you're trying to do, you can set it to G to sell, you can set it to Amar, Rens, wherever you're trying to sell it, to see an estimated price of what that stuff is, right? And what you can do, go to advanced options, is you can kind of determine based on the type of restrictions you may have, especially with certain programs like AO Buyback. For nullsec, there's a couple different things that you do where we sell things or we purchase things from industrialists at 105% or sell things at 110%, generally because of the difficulty to bring stuff out to nullsec. Every contract should be sold at 110%. So you can see the price percentage here and what you're trying to do, and you just press submit, and it's going to calculate everything out for you, and it's going to tell you both the buy, the G to split, which is like, the average between the two, and then the sell cost at 110%. I could set it back down to 100% to see what it would actually truly sell for in JITA and press submit, and it'll show me, okay, it's 51 million ISK. So you can use this website to determine just how accurate or how much your contract is worth, and from there you should input this link that you have up here. You should copy this and paste this into your contract description so that people, when they see your contract, they can click on that link and trust that you are giving them the true value of the contract that you're working with. So if I go ahead and copy and paste all of this, excluding these, let me do that. And there should be a little bit more. I don't want to sell my probes, and I don't want to sell my nanite repair paste. So let me just put this stuff into here. I'm going to swap back for you guys so you can see what I'm doing again. So I just moved all of that stuff into my market goods. I'm going to copy all of this, select it all, right click. So you can't make contracts out of containers, unfortunately, but you can do it out of your item hanger. So I'm going to do some organization here. Let me just kind of give you an example. And stack all. So something to consider when you're doing this stuff is the type of settings you have for your inventory. You can go to the little dots here and do, the sidebar. You can do details, icons, list. Icons for me works really well because then you can sort by type, price, etc., etc. So I'm going to sort by price, or I'm going to sort by type, so I can just contract random junk, right? So, or exploration loot specifically. So here is the exploration loot. I'm going to copy this stuff. That's fine. Right click, and you can create a contract. So I'm going to create a contract. I'm going to do an item exchange. No assembled ships in this. I'm going to make it to my corporation. Press next. Because I pre-selected everything and right-clicked and create a contract, it has all of that already selected here. And then you press next, and this is where you would take this information, copy it, Control C, go to your Janus window, scroll back down to this section in which you can copy and paste, and then you will just replace all of that with the information that you just Control C and Control V it, you paste it in there. And then depending on where you are, if you're in high sec, you keep it 100. If you're in null sec, you put it 110. You submit and see the value. So in this case, it's 42,900,000 G to sell. So I'll take this link, copy it, Control C. I will go back to my Eve, and I will input that value and paste the link here. So I will receive 42 million, and you can round slightly, you don't have to be exact, but it would be something like that. You paste the Janus link in the description so people can click on that link, see that you calculated the exact value of this stuff, and trust that you're not scamming them or creating an overestimate. You could also, if you're too lazy to do this, you can also just hit estimated price. It's going to give you an estimated price based on whatever in-game calculations, and you can see here it's not necessarily the most accurate, but it's actually pretty close. So 37 million, maybe 100% is like 39 million, so it's not too far off. It's a lazier way to do it. You're not going to get the most out of the value if you do it this way, but there's been times where I've used the estimated price or just kind of looked at the if you hover over it, you can see the estimation of each individual module, and I've done it that way as well, depending on how lazy I am, essentially. But anyway, so you can set up the value and put the link. You can also request stuff from the buyer if you wanted something specific that it's not really used too often, but depending on what you're doing, if it's like a private contract between someone, you can do a trade instead of an ISK value. You can say, hey, I want an item for an item, so you can select this and ask what type of item, right? And then you just press next. It'll tell you all the details. So here's the description of the Janus link. It's a private to the corporation. It's available in this location, and it has all this content. And then I press finish, and it would be posted up, right? Now, what happens when it's posted? Let's go take a look at the contracting window. So I created that contract theoretically. Now, how do I find it? So when you go to you can click on this link here, or you can go to my contracts, and there's a couple of bars. You can see a bunch of stuff here, right? So if you go to all contracts, you can select by type. So generally item exchange is what happens out here. We don't really have any auctions, and sometimes we have courier contracts, but the vast majority are item exchange. And the action, so this is where you determine what type of contract it is, if it's issued by someone or issued to someone or both. So typically you want to select both, and the vast majority of what we do out here in nullsec is to and from the corporation itself. So I can say, okay, what is issued to or issued by my own character, and what is outstanding, what has not yet been sold or accepted. You can see that no one issued to me. I haven't issued any contract out by me, so nothing's going to show up. If I do for the corporation, because I have the ability to contract on behalf of the corporation, it'll show me all the contracts available to and from the corporation. There's contracts that I've made on behalf of the corporation to other members of the corporation. There's contracts that members of our corporation have contracted to Absolute Order, in which other members can then see those and purchase those. So you can see here, this is an example of a contract where I created it. It's a flycatcher that is part of our system defense. I've created this, and I've made it on behalf of the corporation so that other members can purchase this if they want this flycatcher. You can see here other members like Teju have created their own ventures, or different types of fitted ships that are available. Some people have a single item on their contract that they list here, but generally you want to look through and see what you're looking for. The vast majority of us look for fitted ships. Here's some pyrite, here's some mining supplies. You can make contracts for almost anything you may be looking for, right? So what you want to pay attention to is the time left, for one, and number two, the description. So here, the description is kind of giving you an indication of what is in the actual contract, because when you hover over the contract itself, it just says multiple items, right? So you can go ahead and find a contract that interests you. I'm just going to pick one random. Let's see. And this is not the only available contract list. There's plenty more, right? It can go up to 500. So you want to make sure that when you are looking through all of them, you don't want to forget this little section right here. There's these little two arrows that indicate right next to the get contracts. This is the scroll over to the next page. So you can keep on pressing these, and there's plenty more windows of stuff, right? Some of it expired, some of it not. So this is where you can make sure you don't forget these little arrows and see the full amount of available ships everywhere. So I'm just going to say, okay, here's a Ferox. I'll purchase a Ferox from one of our industrialists, Draken. So I click on the contract. It'll show me, all the information in here. It'll show me the cost. It'll show me where to pick it up. That's very important. Don't forget that, you're purchasing a contract. You need to know exactly where the location of that contract is, because that's where, when you accept the contract, that's where the ship or the items in that contract will be. So if it's really, really far away, you got to make sure that you're willing to travel that way to that location to pick up the contents of that contract. Okay. Furthermore, there is you can do this drop down that gives you more information. You can say, okay, from the same issue or from whatever. It kind of helps you navigate more specific things, right? And then from here, you would just accept it. If you're happy with it, you would just accept it. You would get the contents. It would be in this station, and then that ship, which in this case is a assembled ship, is yours, right? So that is kind of the way to purchase. So you just browse through, find things that you want, and you can purchase that. So I'm going to just purchase this slasher. It's out of age 9. It was created by one of our members. It's a cheap tackle. And I'm going to go ahead and see. You can also copy and paste all the contents here and check the value of it in Janus if you wanted to as well, just to make sure that they are putting it at a appropriate cost, right? So I'll accept that. It'll tell me all this stuff, and press yes, and you have successfully purchased that contract. Okay? And that's kind of it for contracting. There's one last thing I want to go over, which is the AO Buyback. It's a very important system that's available to all members in different locations. If you go to your corporation tab, you'll see there is bulletins. Scroll down and look for the AO Buyback section in whatever corporation you're in. In this case, for AO18, here it is, buyback service. Please use AO4 for buyback. There's a whole website that we have, aoeve.net buyback. You can click on this, and I will go through the whole website for you guys. It has a bunch of information, a step-by-step process for buyback, basically, just for anything that you are trying to find. Let me open it up if I can. Here we go. Yep, and that and that. There we go. So this is AO Buyback. It's a whole document. It gives you a step-by-step list of exactly what you need to do. It gives you the locations. This is for nullsec specifically, but there is other guides for everywhere else as well. These guides will show you, where it's accepted out of. You can contract to AO4 directly, and the appraisal links, like I said, from Janice are required in the description. It just gives you a breakdown of every single thing that you need to do to make sure that your goods and contents of your contract will be accepted. Here, the guides for other service areas. There's a bunch of different guides based on where you're at in HiSec, in LN Noda, NullSec, all these things. And depending on the purchase prices, you use 90% G to buy in here. And according to the Janus appraisal tool, that's where it's important that you need to use Janus to predetermine, instead of 100%, you drop it down to 90% and use the G to buy value. And that's the cost of the contract that you will be placing. And you have to include that link in the description if you want it to be accepted. So here's a breakdown of everything that they'll accept out of here, things that they do not accept, and that will be the main reason as to why the contract doesn't get accepted is for these specific things: PPCs, skins, things that are very, very large in volume and cubic meters that is not easy to transport. So bulk contracts of these items are not good. Same thing with tier 1 planetary industry. It's just a shitload of M3, so it's really difficult to haul around, especially out of nullsec. In HiSec, it's a different story. I'm sure it's much easier and much safer to haul vast amounts of stuff. So the HiSec guide specifically will have different rules and settings. So make sure you're in the proper guide for the proper location that you're trying to contract out of. But once you do all of that, this is a great guide. It does a step-by-step stuff. It'll show you, exactly how to do everything. This is a different program, Eve Appraisal, that now Janus has replaced, but it's the same concept. You paste the stuff in, and it gives you an estimated price. And then you set that in the description, you create the contract, and once you contract it out specifically to AO4, Absolute Order 4, that's the private contract to Absolute Order 4, specifically the corporation. If everything is properly done, you have the proper contents of the contract, it is set to 90% G to buy, and the link is in the description. They will purchase your goods, and you are on your way, right? So this is just a great thing to use if you're really, there's been times where I've had billions of ISK of stuff in nullsec where I just didn't want to go through the hassle of hauling it all back to JITA and trying to individually sell it all and trying to figure out the best price and all that stuff. The AO Buyback service is really useful for not only getting a convenient way to sell all the goods, even though it's somewhat of a cut to the total profit. The benefit of this is that it's really helping out the corporation. This is a way to supply the corporation so that the corporation can make money and profit and use those profits to help support the rest of us with free ship handouts, the CTAs, getting everything that we need in order to continue to support and promote AO functions and events and keep ourselves going essentially. So really, it's a great service to use. I'd heavily recommend it when you're feeling particularly lazy on any given day. Okay, and that's basically it. Um, any other things about contracting? Just make sure, oftentimes when you are doing these contracts, you can find those contracts and look up the fitting. Make sure that when you're going through and seeing fitted ship contracts, you go into the actual fitting and check to see if your skills can actually use the ship. You want to check to see that your ship, your ability to fly it, your power grid and your CPU are acceptable. You have the proper skills trained. Like if I go to one of my things, and this is just kind of a demonstration in general, I'll just tack this on. So I have a ship. I have a stealth bomber that I just got. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. So I have a stealth bomber. My skills aren't fully trained for this. If I simulate the fit, you can see that I have good enough power grid, good enough CPU, but there's something up here I'm missing skills. So you can see when you go into a contract, make sure based on the fitting that it has there that you can actually fly the ship that you're contracting or purchasing. Okay. And we can go into a whole thing about fitting later on and skill plans and all that stuff. But that's just something to keep in mind for buying specific fitted ships and things of that nature. All right. So that's it with contracting. Any other questions or thoughts or input that you have, feel free to put in the comments. Let me know if there's any information I missed, and feel free to suggest future videos and anything you'd like me to go over and try to put my expertise, if any, towards that kind of topic or concept. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.